it's Tanya, and about a year ago Ahmed mentioned the idea of going to the World Cup in Russia, which I got really excited about because I've never been to Russia. And so I said, yes, let's do it. So the first thing we had to do in order to go to the World Cup in Russia is get a visa. And usually an American going to Russia has a very difficult time getting a visa. First of all, you need an invitation from the country just to apply for the visa, which you can usually get from your hotel, but requires you to book your hotel before you even have a visa to enter the country. And then once you have your invitation, you apply for a visa online, which costs money. And then once you have your application and your passport, you have to go to an embassy or mail your passport and application to an embassy, a Russian embassy. And that costs money, and it takes many months for the whole thing to go through. And it's just a very expensive and complicated process and can cost you up to $300, which sucks. But luckily, with the World Cup being hosted in Russia, you can avoid all that, and all you have to do is buy a ticket to the game, apply for what is called a fan ID, which is what I have right here, and the fan ID allows you to go into Russia with this as your visa, so visa free with the fan ID. And it's super easy, like they mail you everything for free. The fan ID was free to enter, and the only difficult thing was taking my picture, which you can see I look really angry in my picture because I was so frustrated trying to get a picture with a white background that was accepted, but even that's not that hard compared to the visa process. So that alone was amazing. So I've never been to a World Cup before, but this one was well hosted and amazing. Everybody in Russia pulled together to try and make everything as easy as possible for all the international guests. And they had all these fan fests set up, which are pop-up festivals all around the major cities hosting the game, and they had big screens where you can watch the game, and they had shops where you can buy things, and you didn't even need a ticket to a game or a fan ID to enter the fan fest, which is amazing. So you could just go, if you have access to Russia and you don't have a ticket to the game, you can go to one of these fan fests and still get a lot of the spirit and enjoyment out of the game. So I came to Sparrow Hill for some amazing views of the city. It just so happens that Sparrow Hill is the location of one of the Moscow Fan Fest. I'm not sure, but I think this thing behind me is like a bouncy house version of foosball where you can strap in real people and they have goals at either end. It looks really fun. There's also a Fan Fest fan zone here in the middle of Red Square.
Money.
There were a few things that I found surprising and interesting about the World Cup, and one of them is that fans from different countries tend to dress in stereotypical clothes from that country. So for example, if you're a fan from Mexico, you saw a lot of fans wearing big sombrero hats, or if you saw a fan from Russia, they were wearing those big furry Russian hats, and a lot of fans from Egypt were wearing pharaoh costumes, and you get the idea. All these fans dressed in the stereotypical clothing from those countries, which is something I completely did not expect, but was really fascinated by. Unfortunately, the US did not make it into the World Cup, so I couldn't cheer for my home country. So instead we cheered for Egypt, which is the country that Ahmed grew up in. So we had tickets to the Russia versus Egypt game in Saint Petersburg's brand new stadium. Another thing that surprised me about the World Cup is that they don't separate fans in the stadium. There was no Egypt side and Russia side. We had a Russia fan sitting on our right and an Egyptian fan sitting on our left, and everybody was just mixed together, which is not what I expected. When I see the games on TV, everyone seems to be sort of separated, and that wasn't the case, at least for our preliminary game that we went to. Even at a soccer game, there's a line for the women's bathroom. In the summertime in St. Petersburg, they have what is called white nights, where the sun does go down, but it never gets dark completely at night. So at 9 o'clock in the evening when the game was, and during halftime, it still looked like dusk, and the sky was rosy colored, and the view was just absolutely beautiful from the stadium. Russians out here tonight. Egypt lost 3-1.
Bad luck to us.
Maybe next World Cup, woo! USA will be there too.